William, hopefully your favorite videographer. We are here at the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board meeting, the agency known as DART to Dallas, Texas residents. As a service to the Dallas community, we plan to cover DART board meetings from gavel to gavel. Public comments are required to keep DART board aware of issues close to the ridership that they may not get through other resources.
Good evening. It is now 6:31 p.m. Today, Tuesday, June 6, 2017, and we will begin our Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board of Directors meeting. Thank you for joining us. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 23rd meeting. Motion to approve? So moved. And second? No changes? Okay, the minutes will stand as written. The next item on the agenda is public comments. And general public comments will be allowed at the beginning of each DART board meeting for a total of 30 minutes, and again at the end of the meeting when the 30-minute period does not accommodate all persons who have signed up to speak. Individuals who have addressed the board in the past 30 days will be recognized to speak during the public comment period at the end of the meeting. During the public comment period, board members may not interact with the speakers or other board members by asking questions or offering their own comments. Members of the public are reminded that their behavior during DART board meetings is governed by the DART Board Code of Conduct for citizens, news media, and visitors. Personal attack, impertinent and slanderous remarks, and boisterous conduct will not be allowed. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The green light on the podium will indicate when you can begin speaking. The yellow light indicates you have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates that your time has expired. Our first speaker this evening is William Dockery.
Hello. I'm your favorite videographer, I hope. 4326 Gaston Avenue, Dallas, Texas. I won't take the 3 minutes, but I am making a formal request that all your SMU drivers get reorientated. I was unlucky enough to have to take a SMU bus the other day, and the driver did not know she had a lift. The bag that you can see behind me, black bag, was loaded with 150 pounds of equipment. I was to interview one of our future senators or House representatives of the United States for 2 hours. And I ended up wrenching my back, carrying that thing up 4 steps and down 4 steps 5 minutes later from where I was going. It was a short trip. And that's basically it. They, not knowing they had it, I didn't know it either myself until I saw the bus go by me and I saw the lift in the back of the bus. Thank you.
Well, good evening, DART Board. Yeah, I don't get an opportunity to do this very often, but I wanted to take an opportunity to share my appreciation to this agency and to you guys for the fine work that you do. I recently decided to step down from my position as Assistant Vice President of Bus Operations in order to pursue some new and exciting things in transportation within our industry. And so I wanted to thank you, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Oliver, is he here? Ms. Wise, she's here, as well as Mr. Newby, for the opportunities you've given me over the last 14 years. It's truly been an honor to work with and for this agency. Believe me, last time I got up here, I lost a bet to Tammy Heffley, and I was wearing a blue wig, so that kind of tells you the extent of where I'm willing to go to work for this city. So, again, thank you so much. I look forward to all the great things that this agency has over the next several years, and I don't like to say goodbye, but I will say I'll see you further down the road. So thank you so much.
Well, Mr. Bell, I appreciate you coming to speak before us tonight. So will you visit with Mr. Thomas?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Congratulations. It's been a pleasure. Okay, that completes our public comments for the evening. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. We've not been asked to remove any of those items, so I'm asking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposes? Okay, the consent agenda is passed. Next item we have are individual items. The first item, same night item, we discussed it in Committee of the Whole just a minute ago. It came through the Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Wageman.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. This item did not come through the Budget and Finance for a vote, but was considered earlier today at our Committee of the Whole and was approved by a majority of the board. I'm pleased to make a recommendation for approval by this board.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for item number 5. All in favor? I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I am concerned about the fact that it is important for our region that the board stand united in fighting for regional projects. Cotton Belt is such a project. Those of us who voted for the D2 alignment, including the suburb, the subway, did so with concerns about finances, and the finances have been so far explained to our satisfaction. Likewise, the Cotton Belt, there has been no surprise. The RIF loan and all the data that we relied on in our initial votes have been confirmed. Every board member who's had an opportunity, every board member has had an opportunity, more than one opportunity, more than 1 week's worth of, we've had opportunity after opportunity to ask questions of our staff about anything that concerns us, whether it's a board meeting, whether it's a committee. I want this to pass. We need 10 votes. If it doesn't pass, I'm very concerned about what this does to our regional efforts. If I am a person in the suburbs, northern suburbs in particular, and I believe that what's happening here is a section of, or one of the cities, or some of the cities are trying to block progress in other cities, I think this would be a very, very, very destructive thing to see. And I think that it would be difficult then to reach harmony, unanimity, and consensus on future items important to other cities. I ask that those folks who represent the city of Dallas vote for this, consistent with all of our goals of providing regional transportation to the entire 13-city region. And I hope that happens, that we need 10 votes to see where that happens. Because in the future, there will be votes requiring 10 people on things important to the city of Dallas. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Enoch. Mr. Hayden.
I would echo what Mark just said as well, and would ask the Dallas representatives to not politicize this. We have had this. We voted for a financial plan, and I would really ask that this not become a political item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. I appreciate the comments from both board members, and I echo what they're saying. I think this is a very critical moment for our board, and I'd like for all board members, let's do something collectively that's good for the region. Having said that, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Are we able to machine vote? We're going to machine vote. If you look in your pocket, there's a yes and a no vote. So if you would please open your holder and place your vote. Are they being registered? Okay. Do we have a vote? Not complete? Who's this not working? Try the one next to you. Neither one of those two. She tried the one next to it. It did come out. Okay. Just the raise hand. Did it came out? Okay, did she leave or I know she didn't feel well.
Let's speak this one.
Okay. I think I'll, thank you. Abstain on this vote.
Okay, I'm sorry, did you say you abstained? She abstained?
Yeah.
Okay. I need clarification. Who's our parliamentarian? Okay. We have 14 board members. How many votes do we need? Okay. Okay. And my calculation said we need 9.33. Did I miss something? No, if it's 9.5, we would rotate up.
Votes are needed by the committee, or by the board, 10 votes.
Okay, at current, are the votes tallied? Okay. Okay, we show 9 yes and 3 no, which means the vote fails. Okay?
I've got a question, Madam Chair. May I be recognized? So I'd like to know from staff where this leaves us. If the vote is not to get the RIF because whatever reasons that we can read about in the paper, what happens to the board and what's the next thing that happens? Is the Cotton Belt dead unless this vote changes? David, sorry to put you on the spot. Hoped to not have to do this.
Good evening, David Lyman, your Chief Financial Officer. I think the question, as I understand it, is what can we do absent an approval of a bond resolution? We are really unable to proceed with our loan application or a bond sale until we do get a 10-vote approval from the board. Obviously, you can we can represent the matter to you at a later date or in the next several weeks, or what the board wishes on this. But the simple answer is that without a 10-vote approval, in other words, majority, two-thirds majority, then we don't have authorization to do.
And so what happens to those other millions of dollars that other folks have pledged to this project? The cities have put TIF money in, pledged other money, sales taxes. What happens to that other money that people were willing to contribute to this DART project?
Obviously, it's difficult to speculate on that. I suspect that people would give the board the benefit of some time to make some additional consideration before they would withdraw it, but they certainly have no obligation.
And how many millions of dollars are we at risk for losing from contributions from stakeholders and people along the way because of our vote tonight?
Well, it'd be in excess of $200 million.
$200 million by a vote that's in jeopardy, or we're in jeopardy of losing $200 million because of a vote tonight, correct? that correct?
It could be 300 million. Mr. Slagle is correct, because there's some additional commitment beyond the 200 million that's tied to the capital. So it's 200 to 300 million, and your statement, I think, would probably be correct.
So perhaps more than $250 million. And the board was apprised of this in the committee of the whole meeting and previous meetings, how much money was available to contribute to this from other folks that we would risk if we voted against this tonight, wasn't it?
We did make that information available, yes.
Did you answer every question to the best of your ability posed to you by members of the board and the committees over the last year or so about this?
I believe I did. I don't think I believe any questions on it.
Did any of the members who voted against this come to your office before or after or during the times between the board meetings to ask you questions and inquire about the finances of the agency and the ability to do this?
One board member did.
Okay. Any other board members did that?
Not to my recollection.
Is there any information that you gave the board at any time, or particularly tonight for this board, that was incorrect or that somehow we shouldn't depend on?
No, I believe what we provided to you is correct, and you can rely upon it.
And there were some questions about whether or not this RIF loan was somehow unique in the agency. We borrow money all the time, whether it's on commercial paper or issue bonds to various people, do we not?
That's correct.
And we use that borrowed money to build projects like the orange line, the green line, the blue line, and the red line, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's nothing unique other than the buyer of the bond, which is the railroad, I don't know the acronym, the RIF, the United States government, correct?
Yes, it's through the Federal Railroad Administration. It's the Rail Rehabilitation.
So the $900 or so million that we would have to borrow and pay back for this project, on top of the $300 or so million contributed to others that we wouldn't have to pay back, that money comes from the federal government at a discounted rate of 3.5% for how many years?
Depending on when we close, it could even be less than that. It can go out to 35 years.
Is 3.5% on a long-term commitment of 35 years a reasonable amount, in fact, a good interest rate for us to pay for that period of time to fund this project?
Well, as I say, it could even be less. If we closed tomorrow, which we couldn't do, it would actually be under 3%. And our weighted average debt right now is a little bit under 4%, so obviously it's a very attractive interest rate.
Final question. If this board were to have voted for this with the bond issuance, and in effect voted for what they continued to vote, we worked on for years at this agency. How long have we been working on the Cotton Belt, by the way?
Well, it predates my arrival
Years.
here. Yes, I've been here 9 years, and you were working on the Cotton Belt before I joined the agency.
Is there any reason that this board, that this agency cannot afford the Cotton Belt with the loans and the monies contributed I just described, and the D2 alignment downtown with a subway?
No, we're very confident, even at discounting our sales tax projections, that we can definitely support both projects.
So a vote tonight by a Dallas representative against this does not help the chances of D2 with the subway. It simply kills our chance to build the Cotton Belt.
I think that's a question that probably I shouldn't respond to.
Well, let me help you with a different question. The vote tonight against this does not help D2 with the subway, does it?
They're not related, that's correct.
All my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Enoch, and thanks for your comments. Mr. Wageman.
I have a couple of comments. One is I'd like my microphone to work maybe by the next board meeting. That would be great. The second comment is this is not a secret vote, I gather, correct? I did not see it come up on the screen, so at some point. But it didn't say who voted what.
Yeah, I want to poll the board, please.
And thirdly, Madam Chair, my strong recommendation is that we continue to work on this item. It's an important regional project. We need to satisfy the concerns the best we can, provide information where needed, notwithstanding that there's been a lot of information already provided. But I'm confident we can get this project over the goal line, but we need to be deliberate about it and what I heard Mr. Langer say at his briefing in the committee of the whole, there was no immediate time crunch to this project, this item being approved tonight. So my view is there's an opportunity for us to come back and try to work this through. David, any objection or concern if we address this in the next month or 2 months?
It'd be extremely helpful if it were advanced by the end of June, but certainly it doesn't have to proceed tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wageman. Dr. Christian.
David, as a result of this vote tonight, and the fact that it failed, what do you think will be Addison's response as far as continuing as a 13 member?
I think that calls for speculation.
Well, we've been doing this for 25 years and they haven't gotten anything. I'm just,
Yes, sir.
go ahead and speculate.
I feel confident that they're prepared to commit to $5 million if the board goes forward. And I suspect that they understand that this requires deliberation on the full board part. So I think they would not be prepared to arrive at a different conclusion, waiting for some more consideration. So it would be difficult to speculate beyond that. I'm sure that they'll give you some amount of weeks at least to give you an opportunity to discuss this. But obviously I can't speak for the city of Addison. I don't interact with them on this in a direct way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christian. Mr. Hayden.
By advancing this project like we did, we were set to save a tremendous amount of money, correct?
That's correct.
By the window of time, the financial markets, what they are, significant. I think the member cities of this region should hear from those who voted no to know why. Everybody on this board, I hope, is here for the right reason. I hope you're here to advance the Dallas area rapid transit, and I hope you're not just a puppet to folks who are putting you on the board. It's really sad that we've gotten to this point tonight, after all we've gone through in the years this agency has worked on this project, to have 1 or 2 board members try to kill this project in this manner when we've already gotten to this point. I would hope the city of Dallas would speak versus just sitting there and voting and turning your head and being quiet. I mean, what is the rational reason for not voting for this tonight? It makes no sense to me, and I think the region should stand up and ask the city of Dallas, is it the Dallas Rapid Transit or Dallas Area Rapid Transit? We've gone through this before, and we're at the final finish line steps to have a couple of board members play the political game and vote no and then just be quiet is ridiculous. Thank you.
Okay, will you turn your mic on, Ms. Bowman? Okay.
In the first place, I don't consider this killing the project. I don't consider it dead. I mean, it's dramatic to say that, but we're not on a time crunch where if we don't do this right this second, it's going to go over a cliff and never to be saved again. I agree with you, it's a regional agency. I agree with you that this is an important project, and so is D2. I will tell you from the beginning, there are questions, again, I've alluded to, we did not have the opportunity to lay out. And one of the concerns I've had ever since the financial plan was passed last time, D2 has been, in my opinion, looked about almost like a stepchild. I've asked for Plan B. I've asked for it to be accelerated to discuss the finances. We've had a board member on this board talk about going back to a street alignment. As much as Addison and many of the other cities rightfully, and I understand, want the Cotton Belt, Dallas is saying do not bifurcate our downtown with 2 at-grade alignments in the middle of a renaissance in the CBD. Their passion is as passionate as Addison's and other cities to get what they want. And there's been very little, I say, very little listening to what they're really saying. and to try to come up with the plan B. In the newspaper today, the president came out where he is wanting to slice off infrastructure. And it was a very good, informative article, and that included grants that we would be interested in getting. Once we vote on this, then we're talking about, well, what is, are we going to be able to look at a surface alignment again as well as a subway? Well, the passion that Dallas wants a subway is as much as Addison wants the Cotton Belt. And so I feel like if it's truly a regional project, on this board, we all should be talking about both. We all know we need 2/3 votes. We're not idiots. We understand that. And we know you need to give us 2/3 vote if we come to that vote ourselves. So it's not out of ignorance or being petulant or not understanding that this is a regional project. I know that as well as any of you. I've fought for that for a long time. And it's not about the Cotton Belt specifically, except there are not questions that were allowed to be answered. I think if we'd gone back to the Budget Committee, had a chance to air out our conversation and ask the questions that we have, and gone through the regular process, a lot of the concerns would have been taken care of. I'm the person that called David Leiniger and asked him for information prior to this meeting. I'm the board member who did that. And unfortunately, I don't see the level of interest or concern. It's almost like Dallas is just being petulant and they want a subway because they want a subway. They don't want a subway because they want a subway. You know, they're the largest city in this area, and they don't want to have 2 alignments running through the middle of their CBD. And that may be unreasonable to some people. But I don't understand how we're going to give that attention and thought and protection that we have given the other major regional project. And I'm not dismissing that project. And it was not our intention that, I didn't think when we voted, all of a sudden it's going off a cliff and the rail train is going with it. This is trying to say we need to have a little more deliberative discussion. Maybe y'all think all the answers and every question's been answered. But I'm sorry, I think there are questions, and we have a right to have our questions answered too. So it's not an attack to destroy the Cotton Belt. That's not the purpose at all. But I do want to see a little more interest in D2 and a little more looking at what Dallas wants as well as what Addison wants, and say, okay, maybe there is some reasons for this. Now, they're not just being a bully. And so that's why I did it. And I'm saying it loud in front of all of you so you'll understand where I'm coming from. It's not to kill the Cotton Belt. We know it's an important regional project. But we need to work together as colleagues and come up with a plan that is good for both. That is good for both. And have some questions answered. So I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, but that, and I'm going to just tell you straight up, that's what I voted for and why. And I hope that answered a little bit of what your question was. And it was not a Machiavellian plot to kill the Cotton Belt at all. We only, 3 people had questions, then we weren't able to really get around to everything, where it's clearly understood that by taking this vote, we're not sabotaging D2. I don't have any comfort level now that what I've been reading in the newspaper and hearing on CNN about programs, and I don't think we have a really strong plan B for what we're going to do with D2 other than kick it back to where it opens in 2032. If that's acceptable to people here, it is not acceptable from our perspective, my perspective. I'm going to speak only for myself. And no one at the city council is sitting here whispering in my ear at all. They sent me over here to ask questions and sent me over here to deliberate. And that's why I voted the way I did. And I hope you understand this is not killing the Cotton Belt. It may delay this decision a little bit, but to be overly dramatic about it, I don't think is productive either. So that's why.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. I just want to correct a statement you made regarding questions. I offered you the opportunity in committee of the whole. I said, as long as we need to stay here, we will stay here tonight to get all of your questions answered. I was serious about that. So I thought all your questions were answered.
As a matter of fact, I'm ready right now to keep this horseshoe meeting going. It's a public meeting. It's on the agenda. Let's get all the questions of all the staff members and get them decided. See if we can get this thing through tonight. If all it is time to ask questions and we haven't had it the last 8 months, let's do it now.
One of my questions, I'm sorry, and if you already called on someone, I apologize.
Mr. Stover, Mayor Stover had a
Oh, sure,
comment, and
okay.
then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
It's always kind of interesting to someone that's been involved with this for a number of years as we've gone through the different rail lines that we've all fought for over the years and we've all looked at. And what's disheartening to a lot of us is the fact that we all worked very diligently to get our lines in place. And when we did that, we all contributed. For example, when Irving decided that they wanted the orange line, and they wanted it in a different position than the DART did, DART looked at it, what's the easiest and most effective, efficient way to get to the airport? Well, it wasn't what we wanted to do, so we had to pay. So maybe if it needs to be in a tunnel, Dallas needs to pay. And when you look at what these other cities have done right now, these are cities that have been waiting for years for this service, and they've come up with money in addition to what they're paying into their every month, the millions of dollars they're paying into DART. They're putting TIFs in place. They're doing everything they can. One of them's even writing a check out of their general fund for this. So the problem I have is that we all have gone through a process, whether it was the blue line, the red line, the orange line, and when we got through that process, we met with the cities that were involved, and those cities had to participate in order to get what they really wanted. And all we've done so far is talk about the downtown alignment. And yes, we've got a lot of options, but at some point, Dallas is going to have to step up to the plate and contribute to get the option they want. As an agency, we do what we do. Every other city that has had a rail line come through it has had to pay in addition to get what they wanted. And we are nowhere near that with Dallas. We don't know what the alignment's going to be. We've got two, we're narrowing it down. We'll potentially end up with something, but when we end up with it, that doesn't mean that we're going to pay for all of it, we being DART. Dallas is going to have to step up to the plate like everybody else has. And so we really don't know what that number is yet. But we do know what this number is, and we know that there's $300 million, and at the same time, when Dallas does have to step up to the plate, they're going to be wanting the Council of Governments to help them, as just like the Council of Governments is helping these other cities today. So we need to figure out a way to work at this in a regional perspective, not a Dallas versus the suburbs. I mean, if we go back to the way DART ran 25 years ago, when it was a constant fight between the suburbs and the cities, nobody's going to get any funding approved. And that's not going to do any good for any of us because we already have challenges. We have lower ridership than we should have. We've got to figure out how to get our bus service in place. And if we aren't willing to work together to try to expand our system and take advantage of those systems, of the things that are out there, and let the developments grow along these TODs, we're not going to gain ridership, and we're not going to continue to have the cities. We already have seen 3 cities within our area say that they didn't feel they were getting the right dollars from DART, and we're already giving them back part of their monies through road improvements. And if we start doing this with other cities, and really, guys, I don't have a dog in the hunt. The Cotton Belt doesn't come anywhere near the city of Irving. But I do feel that they have been in line just like everyone else. And when all of a sudden, realistically, our numbers even show us that we don't need to build the underground or we don't need to do the expansion in downtown for another 20 years. We do not have to do that today. But we moved it up because we thought we were trying to accommodate everybody in the system. We were trying to accommodate the Cotton Belt. We're trying to do the D2 alignment. So we moved it up in the lineup because we saw the opportunity to come up with the funds that we had. And the way we come up with the funds for D2 and the Cotton Belt is we take advantage of what we can take advantage of at this time. And at this time, we have a RIF loan and some other loans that are available to us that may not be there 6 months from now. And there's going to be a whole type of education that goes on. I mean, it's no joke, or it's no secret, I should say. It's not a joke. It's a pity, really, that Dallas is going to replace people on this board because they don't like the way they vote. That's out on the streets. I've been told it by council members in the city of Dallas. So what's happening here tonight is, you know, you may have the best of intentions, all of you, and I think you all do, because, you know, one of the biggest challenges through all this, and it's difficult to talk about these things, is because the people on this board are my friends, and I hate to see them put in this position where they have to choose, and we have to have these situations where it's friend against friend rather than what's the best thing for the agency. So for me, we're at a point where we can move this project forward. We've got the cities and COG committing money so it can be done. We're going to go through the same situation with D2, and I'm going to be fighting just as hard for that as I am the Cotton Belt. I'm going to be talking to Michael Morris. I'm going to be talking to everybody I can to make sure that you get the funding so that we build the tunnels and we build the system that needs to be in place. But we really aren't even sure where we're at with that yet. But I'm going to guarantee everybody at this table that when we find out, I'll be the first one fighting to make sure that we get the funding for it. But I think we're selling ourselves short by delaying this tonight, and you know, it's over with, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's going to cause a lot of angst amongst the member cities, and it's going to cause a lot of angst as we try to move forward with the D2 alignment as well. It's unfortunate we're in that situation, and I just think that's where we are.
Okay, before we go on, I'm going to change the tune just a little bit, and we're going to take item number 6, and then I'll come back. I have a list of folk who want to speak, but let's go ahead and take item number 6, which came through the Revenue and Public Relations Committee. All in favor for item number 6, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, back to our list of speakers. I have Ms. Gates, Mr. Slagle. I'm coming back to you, Ms. Bowman. I didn't forget you, and Ms. Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a nice segue that Mayor Slagle just provided. We're playing chicken with the quality of lives of the people, tax-paying citizens, who are most dependent on DART for their transportation needs. We're playing chicken with them. And all of this is going to hurt those folks. And that's where my vote has been all along. It's been less about the Cotton Belt, less about D2. It's about making sure that DART is not a crippled system. Because if it is, the people who end up paying the price are not discretionary riders, are not people who look like most of us sitting around this horseshoe. They're people who live in the southern sector and in that little segment off of 75 and Park Lane, who depend on DART to get to work. The Mrs. Birches of our community, who also pay their penny, who also pay full fare, and who don't have choices, who won't be able to be able to keep a roof over their head because they won't be able to get to their job and be able to pay for food for their family and those things. That's what's so patently offensive to me about all of this. That we're playing with the lives of people who need DART. We're willing to risk, take a gamble that who is Addison and Richardson and won't pull out. They won't do it. Well, if they do, the folk in the southern sector are going to suffer. Nobody north of downtown will. No one out in those suburban cities will. It's the southern sector folk and they pay their penny just like the rest of us. So I am offended by all of this. My vote taken in October was for those folk and for a healthy, intact DART. My vote taken tonight was for that. A healthy, intact DART. We are headed down the road of a crippled DART that may not even exist because folk want to play chicken with the lives of folk who look like me, and I'm patently offended by it.
Thank you, Ms. Gates. Mayor Slagle.
This is very serious, and it's important, I think, if we can figure out how to get through this evening and pick up one additional vote, because a lot of bad things can happen. And I don't think anybody intends to have bad things happen, but it's, if you start thinking about 2/3 of the things this board has to do in the future to move the next program forward, why would that happen? Why would the cities be able to get behind doing that? Which is exactly what my friend to my left is talking about. And it's scary to me because I've been involved in this for 25 years on the Cotton Belt and a long time as a leader of Richardson, and I just don't understand it. I don't understand how one person can do this to this organization. And it really is when I say a person, I'm really talking about a Dallas City Council member who has orchestrated this, and it has worked so far. And it's humiliating. It is the most embarrassing thing I've seen, and I don't understand how people can sit here and vote in opposition knowing exactly why they're doing that. I think that's cowardly. I'm so sorry that this has happened, and I'm so sorry that I have to say this, but I'm embarrassed for what's happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Krause.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say that my abstention was not an attempt to kill the Cotton Belt. I do believe it's a very important area project, just as D2 is. The reason that I abstained was that I felt I could not complete my fiduciary duty in voting yea or nay when I did not have enough information. Over at the last presentation, at last meeting, Mr. Leininger stated to Chair Wageman that this topic was going to come back to the Budget Committee. I thought I had additional time to ask the questions that I needed. I was surprised and caught short when, in fact, this topic was came out on Friday, and the agenda was that this was going to be a same night item vote. I commit to meeting with Mr. Leininger to learn more about and have my questions answered, but that's the reason I felt uncomfortable. Because I did try today in the Council of the Whole to ask some questions I had about the federal funding coming from CMAQ, and I was not able to continue to receive the information. So that's why. It's not a vote against the Cotton Belt, and I have no, excuse me, and I apologize to everyone for coughing the whole night. I mean, perhaps we can put it on the next meeting's agenda, and if the individuals who have questions still outstanding can meet with Mr. Leininger between now and the next board meeting, which is in 2 weeks, maybe we can have a vote on that evening if all the questions are answered, and we're only talking really about a delay of 2 weeks. So that hopefully that explains a little bit about why I abstain in this matter. Thank you.
Ms. Bowler.
I concur with, and is it on or off? On, okay. I would, like to see us solve this issue too. I mean, this is not some hatchet job set up to get the Cotton Belt, although some of you may think that's true. That's not true. And really and truly, we have to advocate it takes some courage to stand up when every single other person on this board is going to go a different way. We're not doing it because it's fun. We're doing it because we have some what we think are legitimate issues that need to be discussed. A lot of these issues are really from board members, not staff, that we have to talk about. And that is what I would like, and I think what the mayor said was extremely encouraging in his statement. Because again, I go back to the fact that there's just almost a dismissal in many ways of the importance of what D2 does mean to the city of Dallas. And it shouldn't be looked at as a second-class citizen or even it's not in competition with the Cotton Belt so much as it would be nice to know that we as a group could collaboratively talk about commitments to each other about how we were going to go forward. Once we, without the questions answered, without Plan B in place, there was no guarantees for the Cotton Belt. Again, it would be another 2/3 vote. We know that, you know that. And so really and truly, the questions that are important, I think, as far as bringing confidence level, has to be done among these board members, not so much the responsibility of the staff. And we may, yes, board members turn over, and who knows what's going to happen. But we do need to know that. And so that has been my concern since the financial plan. It wasn't, I was on the staff for 27 years. I totally understand the Cotton Belt. And I totally understand why it's important to so many cities. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I could not get my concerns addressed about what the D2. Again, we're going backwards and we're talking about alignment, at grade alignments and all sorts of things. And we as board members are the ones who should decide these things. Because these are policy issues, quite frankly. So, if anyone's left with the impression that this is something about trying to kill the Cotton Belt, it is not. It's questions that have not been answered and some assurances about the fate of D2, quite frankly. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Ms. Deany.
You all know I'm a lawyer, and as a lawyer, I'm a trial lawyer. And a trial lawyer does a lot of things, including asking questions. And if I were to walk into a deposition and tell the person I'm asking questions of, I've got a lot of questions, he would expect me to ask the questions. I am not going to get answers until I ask the questions. So the question I ask tonight is, what question has not been asked that someone needs an answer to? What answer has not been given? If you want information, ask. If 8 months isn't enough, let's give you another 2 weeks. If meetings ad nauseum with the staff is not enough, ask. Submit them in writing. Make telephone calls. Ask your questions. Ask for documents. Review the documents. Get answers. If you can't get answers, complain to the board, and we'll make sure you get answers, because that's our job, is to get answers from our staff. I have not one time in all my meetings seen the staff refuse to give information. I have not at one time seen them try to dodge your question about the Cotton Belt. They have been totally forthcoming, giving you tons of information. So the question now I ask is, if you didn't intend to kill it tonight, what did you intend to do? What we've done is we've risked it. Okay, let's go ahead and tell the 4 cities, Addison, Plano, Richardson, and Carrollton, we really didn't mean it. Don't worry, it'll be better next time. And at the same time, they're reading newspaper articles about Dallas City Council members wanting to take 1/8 of their penny away from us to fund a pension plan. $36 million a year, and there are people out there talking about that to cripple our agency. And at the same time, we have people, a council person at Dallas, on the news, in the newspaper, talking about removing board members who do not listen to the city of Dallas. That, Sandy Gracie, council member, I'll mention, she's a friend and I like her, but politically I do not agree with her on this issue. I was on the board and I was chairman 10 years ago. And the Cotton Belt was a hot item then. And I had to fight the city of Dallas, and particularly other people in Dallas, trying to kill the Cotton Belt because they insisted that we build a $500 million, $250 million ditch behind the folks in North Dallas. Knowing that that would cripple the ability to do it, we couldn't pay for that. The people in East Dallas, when we built a line behind their house, they didn't ask us to spend $1 billion on a ditch. The people in Irving didn't ask us to spend $1 billion on the ditch. Other people who have nice homes right against railroad tracks that DART runs our trains on now, they didn't ask for $500 million in betterments behind their houses. No, that's not fair. And nobody's going to pay that. That was intended to kill the Cotton Belt. This is not a one-time thing. This is an agenda to kill the Cotton Belt by a minority, in my judgment, on the City Council of Dallas. I don't think most of them want to do that. I think most of them are fair, good people who want to see regionalism and want to see this thing through. But we've already, David, how much have we already invested in the Cotton Belt, just in staff time and consultants and all?
It'd be approaching $15 million.
$15 million, thank you. I heard, and Sue Bowman is a good friend of mine. I've known her for many years, and I do not ascribe any bad motives to Sue or any member on this board that I don't mention specifically. But to say this board has treated D2 like a stepchild is not a correct statement. 3 years ago, maybe a bit more than 3 years ago, we went through this whole thing again, this whole thing before about D2. And there were discussions and meetings ad nauseum, and I think there was a city council resolution that was unanimous that told us where to put the D2 alignment. That was 3 years ago, and we jumped through hoops to do that. On Jackson Street, everybody at DART, all the staff people said, City of Dallas, Jackson Street is too narrow. We can't put the line there. Don't worry, we'll try it anyway. And so for 2 years, we broke our backs trying to make a size, this thing fit on a street this wide. And you know what? It didn't come up. So we came up with some other ideas. And during that time, some wealthy people downtown Dallas, land developers, decided to get together and said, you know, we don't want it to disrupt our business. We want it underground. And that's going to cost the taxpayers $650 million more. Now, darn right the board has some questions about $650 million. We ought to be asking those questions. But to say we don't have a plan B and to say we're not considering D2 in the same breath that we're talking about the Cotton Belt is false. There is a plan. There's a peaceful coexistence plan. We do not have to be fighting suburbs against City of Dallas against suburbs. Don't have to do it because God bless interest rates. We have enough money to do both. Thanks to our staff who's been, husbanding our resources, thanks to our board that's made good decisions in the past, we can do both, and you just heard David Leiniger say that. Doing the Cotton Belt does not hurt D2, whether or not we put it underground. But to say we have not been attentive to the City of Dallas is crazy. We have done everything the City of Dallas has wanted to do for the last 5 or 6 years on this very subject, including changing alignments twice for what they wanted us to do. It is not that we are not listening to the City of Dallas. We have been listening very well to the City of Dallas. My concern is the City of Dallas, at least some people in it, have not been listening to people on this board and our suburbs. And I think Pam, she's not here, I would like to give her a compliment. I think that's the best speech Pam has ever given on this board. It was passionate, it was accurate, it was heartfelt, and I agree with it 100%. If an eighth of a penny goes away, or if we start having suburbs pull away and have elections, we will be crippled. It's not going to affect the trains. They're going to keep running in North Dallas. It's going to affect the buses. And that concerns me. I also object, as the chair did. There were no questions that were not allowed to be answered. There were no time constraints. I think the chair's exact words were, we'll stay here to 8 o'clock tonight if you want to. And I'm willing to stay to midnight or whatever. I'm used to late night meetings. I don't mind that. So my last point is this. I think someone said, let's have a plan that's good for both. I've got a plan, something we voted on several times. Let's do both. Let's finance this with the RIF plan. Let's take advantage of a low-interest government loan to get this done. And then let's see if the Trump administration and Congress can agree on the money for D2. And if not, let's talk about using excess DART funds to do the subway. But let's not kill one with some thought that somehow, oh, I've got to wait and do everything at the same time, because you just kill one. That's all you do. I like Michelle's idea. I think we ought to, David, will you be available in the next 2 weeks to meet with board members or to field their questions? Is there anybody on your staff that is going to be on vacation or unavailable somehow, and you're not going to be able to give questions and answer questions to board members in the next 2 weeks?
Not anymore.
All right. Then I have a motion to reconsider this vote, and under the rules, even the one who was on the losing side of this has the ability to do that. I make a motion that we reconsider this at this horseshoe at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Do we still have a quorum, Nancy? Yeah. Okay. Mark, I appreciate your comments. As a one last ditch effort to get this settled tonight, I think we need to read the resolution as is written, because the resolution is for the approval of the 15th supplemental debt resolution for financing through issuance of tax revenue bonds. So this is a step in the process, and this is in line with our policy. We're a policy board.
Would you like me to state the motion more clearly, then, Madam Chair?
No, I'm agreeing with your motion.
Okay, if you want to read it, I'll do it.
No, I don't want to read it.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make is that we have a quorum. If we could revote it. I don't know if we're going to have a quorum. People are telling me I'm going to be on vacation in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So what happens, we get back here and there's no quorum?
Well, I'll be happy to amend my motion if Mayor Slagle will be willing to. And I move that we reconsider and revote now on the approval of the 15th supplemental debt resolution financing as a step in the process of constructing the Cotton Mill.
Okay, you have a comment, Dr. Christie?
I need to ask your counsel a question again. Are board members or the number that's present?
It's our rules, well, state law says 2/3, and our rules say 2/3 of the duly appointed and qualified members, Dr. Christian. Right now, whether you count that as 15 or 14, you still need 10 votes.
Okay.
His question is no.
I'll let it go along with you, but my Robert Rules of Order always talk about number that's present.
Motion was to reconsider vote and vote now.
Okay. Yes. Yes. We did. He amended, and the second agreed to accept the amendment. You had something, Ms. Bowman?
What is different than when we voted before? I mean, the very reason why I didn't vote the way I did has not been approved or to my satisfaction. I don't have the information. I did talk to staff. I didn't just ignore it until we come in here on Tuesday. I did talk to them.
Okay.
But
I apologize, Sue. I thought you had gotten your questions answered. That's what we've been doing for the last hour, but no problem. We will take the vote as it stands, and we'll address this in 2 weeks. And then that way, that will give everybody time to visit with staff. David has made himself available, as well as his staff, to discuss any questions that anybody might have.
But again, my issue is more with fellow board members than with staff. And that is not something David can speak to at all. And it's really people in this room who've been appointed to represent the region and the cities are the only ones that can really give me a sense of comfort, not the staff. It's not the staff. This is not a staff thing. with me. This is my colleague's thing
So-
with me.
so, Sue, I would be willing to amend again and go back to my original motion. I trust that you want answers to questions that either you haven't been able to ask the right question or the right person. I want to get you that information. I don't want anything to stand in that way. I think it's better to do this right than do it.
But you won't,
in a
you
hurry.
need 10 votes. There's 10 of us sitting here. 5 of our colleagues are not even here.
I feel like I'm pinning jello to the wall. If what the issue is those folks, including you, who voted against this, need more information, I think you have the right to that, and I think you ought to be able to ask that, and I think we ought to be giving you whatever time you need in the next 2 weeks to gather that information.
I can only get it from y'all. I can't get it from the staff.
What information?
You're not hearing me, what my concern is.
Then what information do you need from the board
Okay,
members?
what my concern is, it's not from the staff. I had a long conversation with David Leininger. He answered a lot of my questions when I talked to him prior to this vote.
Right.
Okay? My concern, again,
What are your questions?
the mayor came close to the kind of certainty that I was looking for when he was speaking. But again, once we do this, and let's just be honest, once this is gone, and it's gone, that 2/3 vote is gone. Whatever happens with D2, whatever does happen with D2. Now, let me finish.
Are you looking for assurances that if the city of Dallas votes for D2, for Cotton Belt, that the rest of the members representing the suburbs will also support D2 with the subway? Is that what your question is?
And give it priority on the funding. Here's the problem, Mark. Let me just put it in a nutshell, my concern, okay? We have a very, I would say, I don't know what the staff would say, and they're more informed on this, but there is at least a 50-50 chance that we're not going to get that loan, that grant.
For D2?
Maybe 75%.
You're talking about D2?
Correct. Okay. So if we don't, and we talk about a 7-year delay, we're talking about it really until the year 2031 or 2. We're not talking about it being 2 or 3 years from when it would have normally opened. Now, let me finish, Mark.
I assume what you want is some guarantee or some
That
statement
there's
by the board that
support
we
to
would do
fight
that.
for this and to get it funded and to give it and not kick it into another decade of sitting out there like that.
I'll be happy to do that if what you vote on is irrespective of the RIF loan, we'll commit our funds to build Cotton Belt.
What?
Well, you're saying, I want to make sure that if we don't get the grant from the federal government, DART is still committed to the subway. And I'm saying, okay, so long as we don't get this RIF loan, would you vote for DART funds to be the $990 million or whatever it is subsidy for the Cotton Belt? Everything is contingent upon the financing vehicles that we include in our program.
We agree on that.
We can no more agree with you in the future if we don't get $650 million from this source or that source, then you could agree, it doesn't matter whether we get $990 million, I'll support the Cotton Belt. We cannot give you assurances that 2 years from now, given the finances, things will be that way any more than you can guarantee that. All we can do is a step-by-step in the process, and this is a normal, logical step in the process. City of Dallas already got our bona fides. We didn't insist on the downtown alignment that they had asked 3 years ago. We changed everything. We started spending money on a different alignment. We're spending money hand over fist right now on building a subway. I asked 2 weeks ago, do we have a plan B? Is there a subway alternative? The answer was no. And that doesn't mean that we're not, all it means is we're committed, lock, stock, and barrel, to go that way.
Mark, you asked if there was an at-surface alternative.
And the answer was no.
And then the discussion was then that you probably should be working on one, and because we need to know what that is. That's exactly what you were saying.
Exactly.
Which really shook my faith.
Right after our vice chair was kicked off this board because someone didn't like his vote on the Cotton Belt.
I wasn't thinking about the vice chair or anything else. I was thinking about what you...
but the people in...
What you said, Mark, was, again, bringing up, let's have that in place because we may want to go back to a at-surface alignment. Okay? That didn't build my confidence up that we're committed to trying to do the D2 at all. That really shook it up pretty bad.
Sue, I got to tell you, my confidence was shaken up when we had a board member removed for his vote on the Cotton Belt.
No one around here had anything to do with that. So
I'm
mean-
sorry, is there an elephant in the room that nobody else sees?
No, we had no control or anything to do with that, Mark. I'm talking about what we talk about. And when you brought up surface alignment again and had told the staff they better be working on a
I
surface alignment,
think we need
that
to
was the
stay
problem.
on the posted agenda item.
So I am willing to, if a board member says, I need time to gather information, to ask questions, to meet with people, I'm willing to amend my motion to put this off 2 weeks. If that will satisfy, and I don't care if you want to call board members, if you want to call staff, if you want to call the governor. I don't
Mark,
care.
all you need to do is withdraw your last motion. We've already voted to delay it for 2 weeks. So if you just withdraw that last motion, we're good. It'll be 3 weeks before we meet again?
I don't know.
Okay, so you've removed it, so we're good. So we'll bring this back on the 27th.
I don't remember a vote, sorry.
No, he
Did I
didn't
miss a
vote.
vote?
He removed it and put a substitute in there before he voted.
If people are on vacation, can we call a special meeting? Because there are a few people going to be on vacation, from my understanding.
That was the same challenge I was having over here, Mr. Hayden, is that it is summertime, and we were fortunate to have a
This
quorum
board
tonight.
controls its own board
But
agenda.
I can do whatever needs to be done. And Ms. Bowman, I'm available if you want to talk to me. I try and make myself available all the time, so I'm available. If there's a board member here that's not available, I'm sure we can arrange something with cell phones.
I do think, though, because, again, it is a regional agency, we do have two key major regional projects that we as a group need to talk this thing through. It shouldn't be adversarial. It's really not about that. At least I don't believe it is, anybody I've
Well,
talked to. I really want to have the same sense of comfort that y'all want for the Cotton Belt. I'd like a little sense of comfort
There's no
for D2.
guarantees, and
I know
I
that.
from the board level can't offer a guarantee for either project. All we can do is vote based on what we have, the facts we have today.
Well,
Things can change.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
but there's no
recognize that.
guarantees, and I would not be willing to step out on the limb and say, I guarantee this. I don't even guarantee the Cotton Belt, but what I can do is make a vote based on the information that's been delivered to us today. And I think today we were at a point to where we had information. If new questions come up, we'll address them.
Okay.
I've got a commitment from Gary down that we'll get all questions answered.
Okay, well, let me ask this question. I mean, are we willing to have a conversation? And here's what I'm talking about. Let's assume that the grant program goes away, which it probably and likely can go away.
See, you
No,
can't make those
let me finish.
assumptions.
I don't want to wait 2 years to have Plan B. Why don't we have Plan B now? If we were private sector, I'm sure with $1 billion project, we would have a contingency plan in place, not wait 2 years when we don't get the grant. And then we're going to be kicking it down the road to 2032.
Sue, I didn't want to say this, but back when Dallas decided that they wanted the tunnel and wanted us to abandon what we had in place.
It didn't work.
I said out of my mouth, you're taking a chance because the administration is changing, everything is changing. Right now, we had talked with the FTA, we had submitted some documents. We were headed down the road to get in that second alignment at grade exactly the way the city wanted it. When everything was halted and a new direction was taken, I said, you're taking a risk. I was told, we'll take that risk. Here we are. We're taking a risk, and it's going to be that way from now on. Nothing is guaranteed.
Well,
But I'm going to say this. It is now 7:40, and I'm going to stay afterwards, and you can talk to me as long as you want, but I know we're not going to vote on anything tonight, right? So we can...
Can I just ask the one question, though?
Sure,
I mean, and I'm serious.
Okay.
I don't think what I'm asking is unreasonable, because I totally understand what you're saying. And
Okay.
I don't disagree with you. You're not a magician. No one in this room knows. But what I am asking for is us to consider as a board, let's just say it's a doomsday factor. Let's just pretend that there is no grant and we know it right now. Is there anything wrong with putting together what Plan B actually looks like, and this board has a consensus that we agree this is our Plan B? The grant, we can say that right now. Yes, we're hoping we get the grant, but what is wrong with having a collaborative understanding and agreement what our plan's going to be?
I think Mr. Leininger demonstrated in the financial plan that we could do both. I think he demonstrated that some time ago.
He did.
I fully trust him.
Okay.
Okay.
But that doesn't answer my question, because it's not about Mr. Leininger. It's about us and our political will is what I'm asking.
So ask
Okay,
the
I hate
question.
to, okay, we're going to come back to you, Ms. Bowman. Let's hear what Mr. Wageman.
Oh, I have nothing else.
Has a question. No, you don't. No, sir. We won't have a quorum if you leave.
Let's have a quick,
Where do you
let's have the
vote
quick
it?
vote.
That's okay, sir.
Have we voted on bringing back up at 3 weeks? Have we voted?
We did.
We did.
Okay. So, any further comments? Any further comments?
Oh, that's right.
I'm sorry, we have a comment from the audience. Mr. Brady.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am truly saddened by what has happened tonight. This is a demonstration of the tragedy that DART faced years ago when there were members of the 25-member board who attempted to force a subway into the process of DART. And people realized that there would not even be a DART outside the city limits of Dallas if we stuck everything underground at that time. Now, as has been mentioned by other members of the board, every effort has been made by the staff to answer the questions that need to be answered. Mr. Thomas and Ms. Wilkins have made the commitments to see to it that those questions are answered. Should the city of Dallas change the structure of this board, in the meantime, they are creating a dilemma of the type that Ms. Gates made mention of. The dilemma that denies service to far so many people who are dependent on this agency and have been for all these years, and had the confidence to stay together as a region for this process. Now, it's saddening that some have left already, and that action cannot be taken to get this moving. Get your questions answered, and let's get on with it. You're being unfair to the writers and the taxpayers who have supported this agency for decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Any further comments? Okay, it's now 7:44 p.m. and the meeting stands adjourned.
Ms. William, hopefully your favorite videographer. We love comments. If you don't like the way DART is handling things, lay it out for everyone to see. If you like or hate this video, tell us. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, tell us. We love it when you call. Better yet, like or follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube and get instant notices of all our videos.